Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, May. I've got to look because I can't remember. It is May. No, it's not even May anymore. It's actually June. So that's how much I look at my calendar now, and I'm sure many of you are the same. It's a blustery day. Not really. It's a gray day. Yeah, we'll say it's a gray day today here at the Savannah Performance Project Clubhouse. And I'm here in front of my nice black backdrop, as we've all become used to. I need to change my backdrop. It's getting a little gloomy. Maybe I should add some festive ornaments or something. I don't know. Anyway, today's show, I have a former Savannahian, Will North Cleckler, who is out in LA right now. And he, of course, has been quarantining much like the rest of us. So we're going to find out how that experience has been for him, as well as dive into his most recent endeavor, which is a book series that he's started. So we're going to talk to him and get to know him. And he's out there in the green room right now and enjoying, of course, the complimentary charcuterie board, as everyone does. And I think today we've put some chocolate on there. That's new. So let's find out about that. Will, how's it going?
Hey, Chris. Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
You know,
no
it is June. Yeah, we're about to finish off the first decade of 2020. So
Yes, exactly. It has been a long 2020. When they said that we're going to be in the new millennium, I didn't think that we were going to actually experience an entire millennium. So it's been fun.
it's been interesting for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So you're based out of LA now?
Oh yes, I've been here for over 10 years since like 2008, 2007. Yeah.
2007. So at 2000, at the break in 2007, you were living in Savannah at that time?
No, I actually I last full-time lived in Savannah in between undergrad and grad school, which would have been like the summer of the year 2000, and then the summer of 2001. Yeah. And then I went to New York for a bit. And then I left New York I was crazy story there. I was flying away from New York the Sunday before the Tuesday of September 11th.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was crazy so I was leaving New York to go to grad school at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And I was there for 3 years. And then from there, worked at Disney in Orlando for a bit, did a cruise ship in the Mediterranean for a bit, then moved back to New York, was there for a couple more years, then came to LA. So it's been a whirlwind, but
yeah. So I'd say a lot of that time in between, you were doing mostly performance and stagecraft and that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was pretty much all performance based with an occasional directing thing here or there, all through, I want to say maybe 2010 or so, 2008. Well, actually, I came to LA to work for an entertainment agent who was the former VP of TV for the William Morris agency. So okay. I was still performing, but working for him as a day job. So that was actually when I really went full time, kind of doing superfluous things in entertainment that weren't actually performing. So and that's where I learned the business side of the business. So yeah,
and that's what I'm really interested in is that business side, because we've talked a lot with different performers and what they're doing and how they've been keeping sane during this time. But I can't even imagine, because you were with a theater company, right? Or you still are, right?
Well, no, I was. Okay. I haven't been with Five Star for a bit now, but yeah, I was there for a few years as the managing director. So some people maybe aren't familiar with the term managing director because artistic director is used so, frequently in theater. But, really, really large theaters, a lot of times will have both. And the managing director focuses on the producing side and the, donor side and all of that. And, basically the money. And then the artistic director focuses on the season and, hiring directors and that sort of thing. Where I was at Five Star, we only had a managing director. So I kind of did all of those things. But yeah, and some theater companies on the smaller level only have the artistic director. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. But now during this time, you've been writing your second book. Is that correct?
Yes. So the quarantine for me, it honestly has been a total blessing because it really, my days that were spent at least 2 hours every day taking kids to school and traffic and so forth, my days were really focused in and streamlined so that I could get a lot of writing done, because the first book in the series now this was taking huge breaks in there, but the first book in the series from inception to, actual book took 17 years. But now it was also because it's a fantasy world and I'm literally creating a brand new world with, rules that, there's no sun and there's no moon. And so what are the rules that govern this world? And, trying to be scientifically accurate with how certain changes would affect things. So kind of hashing all that out and the actual writing of the words is what took 17 years. So now that the world is established and I can just kind of let my imagination run free in it, the second book is going to be done at the end of this summer, probably at the latest. And this one, that'll be a 2-year gap in between book one and book two. And things are just really speeding up, from here. So.
Great. Yeah. So this break has been creatively a blessing for you.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I've honestly been cranking out. I've been averaging about 1,000 words a day, which it doesn't take a long time to type 1,000 words a day. What takes a long time is the mental energy of pulling words from within you.
Yeah.
So just to be able to sit on a couch, throw on some Lord of the Rings, light a candle, and just have, my artistic kind of atmosphere that I love and not be distracted by things like work or taking kids to school or just daily life has been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the Whisperian. Am I saying that right? The Whisperian world.
Very good. Yes. So I'll show the title there for people. So Whisperian, it's actually from an old English word, Whisperian, where they just put the H in, and it means whispered because and for a while the book went through several titles. Of course, the series did, and it was called The Whispered World for a while until I discovered there was some random game in Europe or something that was called The Whispered World that had absolutely nothing to do with my world. So I wanted to change that. And so Whispering is the old English word for whispered. And the reason that I wanted whispered is because if you believe the Genesis account where God spoke creation into being, and this world is the tangible, real world that we have that is, that's here for now, then this world was whispered. And this world was more ephemeral and has obviously disappeared at this point. So, and in it, my whole kind of point behind my inspiration for even wanting to do it was, whenever I would talk to a lot of people who are straight up atheists, and a lot of people's reason for not wanting to believe biblical accounts is things like dinosaurs, things like, cavemen, and how can the earth be only 6,000 years old and that kind of thing. And so in the first verse of Genesis, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and empty. Well, the Hebrew word was, haya, can also mean became. So it's just a simple interpretation difference of the earth became formless and empty. And all of a sudden you have an earth that wasn't formless and wasn't empty. So I'm not saying that I believe that interpretation. I'm just merely saying that is kind of the catalyst to create this world in that one word. And so in this world, we have dinosaurs, we have cavemen, we have unicorns and dragons, and there's a lot of mythological elements as well. Things that you'll find in Greek mythology, but it's kind of, I attempt it to be an origin for all of that. So that goes back to language as well, going back to the word Whisperian. So a lot of the words for the places and the people and everything else in the book are taken from ancient Greek, ancient Latin, ancient Hebrew. I purposely wanted, so Tolkien kind of made a lot of different languages, but using the biblical account, at Babel, we had one language until Babel, and then all these other languages happened. So I wanted to go from the perspective of there was one language, and this one language influenced all the others. So if that's the case, then I wanted my one language to be taken from all of these other ancient languages and to kind of create that origin. So.
Got it. Got it. Very interesting. So Jenna Elise, let's see. She says LOR.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
Okay. She left out the T, so I was confused too. I was like, is that a reference to your book? But yeah, I hear you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh, I mean, my absolute favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it be book, whether it be movie, and that includes, I'm one of the rare ones that I love the Hobbit films just as much as the Lord of the Rings. I think those did a really great job, and they're just magical for me.
So wait, the original Hobbit, like the animated version, or
no. I mean the Peter Jackson Hobbit, the much ridiculed Peter Jackson Hobbit. I love it just as much as the Lord of the Rings.
So I will share with you my theory, not my theory, just my own personal belief about filmmaking and movies is if I am able to sit for 2 hours and totally embrace myself in another world, I'm happy. So a lot of the time I'll see people, they'll tear apart like a series of films or like one film in particular. And if I've got a smile on my face walking out, that's it for me. So I totally agree with you with The Hobbit. I love The Hobbit, and I of course love The Lord of the Rings as well.
And by your definition there, so imagine taking, what is it then, 24 hours of Middle Earth if you take all six of the extended versions, which are about 4 hours apiece. So if you take all six of Peter Jackson's extended versions of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, you've got a 24-hour dwelling in a world. So it's and I still want more. I mean, like, I hope they do make, the Second Age films or the Silmarillion or whatever. I mean, like, I can't get enough. So, but here's what's in this quarantine, I've discovered this, and maybe you'll agree. In this quarantine, I've discovered that beyond Middle Earth, beyond Narnia, beyond the Harry Potter films, and you can throw in an occasional. I mean, if you like Game of Thrones, also it's a little more adult, obviously. But
sure.
Beyond those, we really don't. And you can throw them if you want to put it Star Wars, and if you want to put the Marvel universe, okay. But beyond those, there isn't a lot of content. I'm like, I can't tell you how many times I've watched these movies, not because it's the only thing I want to watch, but because there isn't anything like them. So it's like I'm kind of astonished at the lack of really quality fantasy or that kind of imaginative world content out there. So
world creating.
I hope that I can add.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly true that we as creative individuals, that's kind of, if you want to go to the ultimate thing, I mean, you want to create a world in a way. I mean, none of us, of course, can aspire to be God in any way, but it's the closest thing that we can experience. That is that.
Bingo.
Think, with your book, I certainly see you in that mindset.
It's like, what kid doesn't want to, like, if their dad's a plumber, then they play with plumbing tools. If their dad's a farmer, they're out, playing with a toy shovel or what have you. And it's like, our father is a creator, so it's like, here I am dabbling with creating things.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Jenna says, who is the current character you currently identify with most? I think she's speaking of Lord of the Rings, and I think I can guess who that would be.
She might be asking you. I don't know. Or we can both.
Maybe. I don't know. Now, I don't know who Jenna Elise is. I'm trying to remember.
She's my really good friend out here.
Okay, so. Good. I thought it was like a friend of mine. I'm feeling bad because I don't know who it is. No. Here's somebody we both know. Hi, April. How are you? April Prowl.
Hi, April.
Yeah. But yeah, so
I should say Jenna's my girlfriend, and not only that, she did the cover design. So
well done.
Yeah.
My daughter brought.
So my favorite Lord of the Rings character, though, is I'm a combination of I would say number one, Gandalf. I would say Gandalf is and Harry Potter, Dumbledore, would be my character I relate with most. So I don't have the beard, I don't have the long hair. I'm not aged, to that point yet. But and then Aragorn and Sam for sure for me. I don't know, for you, who would you say?
I would say, yeah, I'd have to go with Frodo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like being the hero, so I think that's and yeah, I think so.
Oh, so now we can debate, is Frodo actually the hero?
True, very true. Protagonist, let's say protagonist of the story.
Fair enough.
She's actually, Jen is asking from the Whispering World.
What character from the Whispering World do I relate with the most? Here's the thing about being a writer of a fantasy world is that honestly, whether the characters are good or bad, they're all me. That's what's crazy is that for the really evil characters, I pull from the things I hate the most about myself and amplify them. For the really good characters, I pull from the things that about myself that I hope are my good qualities or qualities I aspire to, and then amplify them. But for each character, I'll take those certain aspects and then, kind of carve out these lanes for them to be in. So that said, I would probably say Animus because he's the father, like he's like the middle-aged, like in his 40s. He had young kids, and that were untimely taken from him in the book, and so then he sets out on, and he's guided by his faith in Alphega, which the first book is called Tears of Alphega, which is taken from the Greek word alpha and omega combined, the first and the last, beginning and the end. And so he's guided by his faith in Alphega to, do what he thinks needs to be done in the Whispering World. So yeah, that's who I would say I relate with most.
Cool. So and he has a bear, is that right?
Yeah, very good. Yes, he has another point there. My favorite animal are grizzly bears. I love hiking, as you can see, and so I love being out in the mountains and everything. So he has a cave bear, which is a prehistoric bear, much bigger than grizzly bears. But yes, he has a pet bear called Oz. So
yeah. Oz. Okay. Yes. O-S.
O-Z-E. Yeah.
O-Z-E. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but I did a little bit. So that's
it's awesome. It's great
about that. Carissa Sykes wants to know what ages are appropriate.
Yeah, great question. So I have a fifth grader, a third grader, a first grader, and a preschooler.
Wow.
My fifth grader absolutely can. This is like, I would say for an average fifth grader, she's like the entry point. My third grader, though, is in the midst of reading it right now, and he will come to me and have questions that show me that he's comprehending it all. So as far as the content goes, I mean, I would put it on par with, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter with regard to the degree of action, adventure, and kind of tragic elements, if you will. So, I mean, there are some, sad things that happen, but I wouldn't think it's anything that a third or fifth grader couldn't handle. So, and then beyond that, just like the Harry Potter books and everything else, I mean, I wrote it for an adult audience to 100% enjoy. So,
very cool. Carissa also asked, can you tell us one cool moment for your heroine? And actually tell us who your heroine is first.
Yeah, that's great. I actually have several heroines. I wish I had my if you go to the Instagram, the Whispering World Instagram, at the Whispering World, you'll see the colored painted images of the female heroes. But there's three, two of which are twins. I'll stick with them for the moment because their names are Harmony and Melanie.
Oh, nice.
Cantique. So it's basically like Cantique is taken, to sing, and then instead of harmony and melody, I reverse the N and the D. So, and the reason for that is the Archeon, which are the angel characters in the Whispering World, are the only ones with the ability to sing in this world, except for this magical substance these twins drink, which splits their one vocal cord into two, giving them this ability to sing. So they use their really powerful magic voice, if you will, that any of the evil forces that hear them sing are turned to stone, not stone, but are frozen, indefinitely. So their voice is really powerful, and coming from a theater background, coming from an artistic background where music and song is so important to my everyday life, I really wanted these characters to show the strength and the power behind a song and behind singing. So those two twins are very important characters. But the first book's title is Tears of Alphega, and that's because there are these 7 tears where the god character Alphega cries that land on these characters. Each character gets 1 tear, and Duolos is another character that gets a tear, and her pet lamb. She's a shepherdess. So she is a princess. You find out at the very end of book 1 she's a princess, but she's been living as a shepherdess. So in book 2, what you'll find out, book 2 that I'm almost finished writing the entire first rough draft of, is her story. Really, it's all about how she went from how she left the royal life to be a shepherdess, and now in this time of need she comes back to her father's death. She comes back to kind of lead her people as their young queen. So there are a lot of heroines. Those 3 are the main ones, but there are a couple of other kind of secondary characters as well. So yeah, hope that answers your question, Chris.
Wow, yeah, and I think that's a great choice for you to make, to have a very bold female-oriented cast in this. I think we need more of that for sure.
Totally, yeah. So of course, going back to the biblical, like there's so many heroes throughout the Bible that are female. So, and in addition to that, when you're creating a whole world, that's why it took 17 years, because you have to have characters that are you have to have representatives of all of these people. So that's why and I should also add the format of these books. Instead of chapters, I call them scrolls. And I go into this in the second book as to why I did this, why Alphega, why they are arranged in such a way, but they're not chronological. So one scroll tells Harmony and Melanie's story, another scroll tells Animus's story, and then another scroll tells another character story, and eventually there's a scroll that brings them together. But in the second book, for instance, we go back to scrolls that happen in time before scrolls in the first book. So it's all about I use this method as a way to, unveil certain elements of the story, but at the same time introduce the characters. So
very cool. Yeah, scrolls instead of chapters.
Yes.
Nice. So eventually we could maybe look at maybe actually having these physically. So you could go to the store and you could actually buy the scrolls.
What's interesting is I've just run out of time and I don't have enough people working on my team to do this, but I really did want to make these you've seen these boxes on Instagram that are like the, fairy boxes or what have you, have like for people who are, the Bookstagram community, they get kind of perks, to whatever book, whether it be the Harry Potter series, whether it be the, what's the clear, I forget the name of the series now. Anyway, point is whatever your favorite book series is, they have these kind of bonus cards or artwork or what have you. And I wanted to do some scrolls.
Yeah.
And probably, hopefully will at some point.
Yeah. Well, that, but just takes time, I guess. There's a lot of artwork here, and I imagine this is all done by Jenna?
No. So she did the cover, and she's working on the cover for the second book. I have 3 other artists, one of which, Hector, who does, if you're looking at the book there, he does these amazing illustrations at the end of each chapter. There's an illustration again, when I'm trying to create these, there's Duolos with her lamb. When I'm trying to create these, new worlds, it's great to have a visual reference for these things. So Hector does the illustrations in the book. Actually, there's a 4th artist, because I had one person that took my map that I did, that I actually designed the map, but then she turned it into something that people actually want to look at. and then I have another artist who's doing all of the color paint art. So yeah, and these, we'll have T-shirts and doing like a playing card set eventually once all the art's done, and basically anything you can think of to put a branding on, we'll hopefully have it eventually.
Yeah. So how long has the book been out?
So this one almost 2 years. By the time the second book hits the shelf, it'll be 2 years.
Okay. And you did something something very nice for the current climate, I think, as far as Amazon goes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you can get the Kindle version for free on Amazon. But
Okay.
and I chose to do that once everyone was at home. So
Yeah, that's great. So I'm gonna pick it up right after this and start reading it because I'm very interested in
cool,
this.
thank you. Awesome.
So yeah, that book's great. Let's talk about performance for a minute. So you obviously were interested in performance at an early age.
Yes. First show was at, I say show, I was a little drummer boy at First Christian Church there on Victory Drive at 5. I did the, Come They Told Me, Little Drummer Boy song and the Christmas pageant. And then after that, my first community theater show was The Music Man at Savannah Theater.
Oh.
And that was when I was 7.
Okay.
And then from there, I did Oliver there a couple of years after that. And my first few several shows actually were at the Savannah Theater with Alice Pollock directing most of those. And then eventually I transitioned over did so much work at City Lights with Jody and Jim. And those were just amazing days there on Broad Street. And Billy Hester at Asbury, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, all of those are, have such a close place to my heart. I mean, just love all of those years were great.
Yeah, it is a special community here for sure. And Billy and Sherry are still going strong. I just recently did Mamma Mia with their son Wendell. He was Scott. No, he wasn't Sky. I'm sorry. He was another character in Mamma Mia. But yeah, it's fun to see them still doing that, and then their son going off and pursuing that as a career. So yeah, that's great.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I honestly think the last time I saw their son, he was like in a car,
oh, I'm sure,
stroller or something.
Yeah, if you've been away that long, that's probably true. Yeah, actually, he was in Music Man with me. He was at the Savannah Children's Theater. He was in Music Man as I can't remember which character. It's
Winthrop. Or was it?
No, he was older. He was Shapoopy. He was the Shapoopy character. What's his name?
Yes, you hadn't asked me, I could have told you. I know you're talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and he was great. It was a lot of fun. But so you did that here, and then you went off to college in Mississippi or Alabama? Alabama, Roll Tide.
Right? Roll Tide. Yes. How dare you?
And you studied specifically
pedagogy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that was grad school. Undergrad, I actually went to the University of Georgia for 2 years.
Oh,
where
okay.
Another Savannah icon in theater, Tom Coleman. I first did a show with him. We did the Fantastics, which I guess technically was at the Savannah Theater. It wasn't a Savannah Theater production per se, but anyway, that's where it happened. And then after my first experience with him, I went to Athens and did stuff at ACT with him for my first 2 years of undergrad before transferring to Jacksonville University in Florida because they had a musical theater program there. So got my degree in musical theater and my BFA before, yes, Alabama was where I got my MFA in acting pedagogy, which really cool degree. I didn't even know when I got my degree how unique it was, honestly, because, even at NYU and stuff, you choose, a Stellar Adler school or a Lee Strasberg school or what have you, and you learn, you go deep into that technique study. With the acting pedagogy degree at Alabama, you're basically getting all of these different tools that then, whether you're an actor or whether you're a director and you're unlocking, like a performer in a particular scene, you have all of these various tools, whether it be an in to out approach or an out to in approach, to help that performer unlock the character. So it's a really cool program they have there, and it gives you a really broad kind of knowledge base for things like Suzuki and things like Laban and all of these, and of course you still have the Strasberg and the Stanislavski and those kind of pillars, but it was a really good 3 years.
Very cool. So Laura Dutton, do you know Laura?
Of course. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I agree, Laura. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you know what? I got to comment on this because she says, "I know the women in your life." Oh, it just went away.
Oh, I'll put it back up. Here you go.
Yeah, women in your life have been a powerful and positive influence on you. I cannot say enough about that comment. She just nail on the head. I mean, my mother is like the most supportive mother you can ever imagine. My great aunt and my grandmother. I mean, and then my mom has 4 sisters, so all of us, and then an amazing cousin who lives in Alabama, who's a psychologist there, and so I have this crazy support of women in my life. And then throw in, of course, the women directors like Jodie Chapin and like, a really good friend of mine, Misty Wills, who I brought out to LA to do Sister Act and Hunchback of Notre Dame. So, yeah, it's funny because in a climate in our world where, when you have the Me Too movement, you have everything else, um, you know, I, it's been such a second, it's just my second nature to just like not even think about having to choose to hire a woman director or what have you. It's just like it's just a part of who I am. I mean, it's not so like to consciously think about it is like a whole nother step. But like it's women are 100% equal. Like who wouldn't think that?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that probably is to Laura's point. The reason I'm like that is probably because they have been such a crazy strong positive influence in my life.
Yeah. So I have my fact checker. He's always on. He's most always on. Chris.
Oh, yeah?
He says, "Howdy, howdy, howdy." Do you know
Chris? Oh,
yes,
Chris. Okay. What's up, brother?
He's a great fact checker because he came right out with Marcellus Washburn.
Oh yes. Okay, perfect.
From Music Man. That's who. Yeah, Shabubi. So thank you, Chris. Great. Yeah. So, and you were in New York. Did you do Broadway in New York?
I did a lot of off-Broadway stuff. What's crazy with the whole Broadway thing is, it's part of it's part of what has kind of guided me throughout these many decades, is that I stopped counting at 12 the amount of times that I got to the final creative team callback for a Broadway lead. Yeah. So it was, like Jersey Boys several times. I mean, Jersey, yeah, it was me, one other guy, and Frankie Valli in the room with the whole team. And then and same thing for, I mean, literally I went in for all 4 of the Jersey Boys at various points in time. Mm-hmm. Same thing for eventually Javert and Les Mis, Lestat, if you remember that Broadway show. Mm-hmm. I really just lost count of the amount of times of Rent back when I first got to New York for both Mark and Roger. So yeah, I mean, that was a, gosh, I want to say like a refining fire time period in my life, because there was so much it's hard to say rejection, because I mean, it was rejection, but it was that always a bridesmaid, never a bride kind of thing that was, it was brutal, because to get your hopes so close so many times was it was tough, man. But like I said, it really, all of that comes out in writing. I mean, you take from all of these life experiences and transform them and put them in a different form into a different character's life. So I'm thinking, and by the way, I truly believe that everything happens the way it's supposed to believe. Mm-hmm. Supposed to happen. So I believe I'm exactly where I was meant to be. But that's not to say that eventually, when Broadway needs a 60-year-old dude to do whatever, and my kids are all grown and moved away, I don't know. Maybe I'll be back there.
Yeah, there you go. Never stop. Audition. That's what I tell people. As long as you're still working as an actor, keep auditioning.
That's the great thing about acting, is that you literally never, you never age out of it.
True.
There's room for everyone.
Yeah. So you did that in New York, and then you mentioned that you had flown out to LA 2 days before 9/11.
No. Okay, so that was actually grad school. I was flying. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, 2 days on the Sunday before 9/11. I left New York, and actually there was a Michael Jackson concert at Madison Square Garden. I remember my brother coming up for. So yeah, I left New York to go to grad school the 2 days before 9/11. So
Okay.
I was waking up in Tuscaloosa, my phone's blowing up because there's so many people that are thinking I'm still in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was another just example of like God guiding my life, because I didn't like apply in advance or anything. With grad school wasn't on my radar, but it was just through a series of events that will take too long to get into right now. It happened. I mean, I was sitting in class after being in New York, a couple of days later. It was a miraculous event.
Yeah, I'll say. And what I mean, this is the way I look at it, because my wife was with child during 9/11, and then he just graduated from high school and couldn't even experience what we experienced when we graduated high school. He's kind of like, it's almost like a bookend generation of like, here's the start of your life was this traumatic experience that changed the entire world, and here we are again at a turning point in his life where everything's changed again. At the same moment, he doesn't really have a conscious idea of it. It's just life for him. But for us looking from the outside, it's just, wow, it's astounding.
And that's the thing with my kids too, is I go, when all this lockdown and everything started, and pandemic and everything else, I mean, they are the resilience of children is, and just because they have this kind of childlike way that they go through their life, and they don't know what life is without a quarantine when you're in 5th grade or 3rd grade or whatever. So it's astounding to see how they adapt. It's awesome. It's really really powerful. So yeah, I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah. So back to what I was trying to get at is like, you moved from New York to LA.
I moved from that was the second time I lived in New York.
Okay.
Yes, second time I lived in New York, which was after 9/11 in 2005 to 2007. Then I moved from New York to LA. Yes, and that was because Sam Haskell, who was the VP of TV at William Morris back in the day, he just over a dinner conversation. This is another one of those miraculous things, because over a dinner conversation, my ex-wife is a Miss Mississippi, and his wife is Miss Mississippi, and I performed at the Miss Mississippi pageant several times. And so we were out at dinner one night, and he said, I need an assistant if you want to come work for me in LA. And literally 2 weeks later, I'm living in LA. So it's how my life has been. It's how a lot of people's lives have been. But I mean, it's these are the way things happen. I mean, and so that brought me here. It was awesome, the things that I learned from him. Again, like I said, like the business side of contracts and dealing with agents, and he put together shows too, and he was the president of the Miss America organization, or chairman of the Miss America organization, and so putting together that whole show when it was on TLC, and the reality show that went along with it. Yeah, so that was a really, it was, I won't say a fun experience, because it was really a lot of hard, crazy hours and hard work, but it was a really vast learning experience.
Yeah, I'd say so. And after that, I guess you started to form this theater company. Is that correct?
No, so gosh, there's so many things in between those two things.
Yeah.
So then because he retired and moved to Mississippi, so once he moved, then I actually started working as a technical director and production manager at Marymount here in LA. And so I was designing sets, building sets, designing lights and running lights and sound and everything for these shows. And that was actually where, I mean, at City Lights, I helped design and build like sets for Guys and Dolls and Sweeney Todd and those shows that I directed. But that period at Marymount was where my everyday life was doing the tech side of theater. So have a vast appreciation for all of those artists as well. But so then, and that was like a 5-year period there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually worked for Abel McAllister Designs, which they're like an experiential marketing firm, which my main client was Patron in those days. So I did like a 12-city, 3-month Patron tour with 18 wheelers, where I would meet them at a city, work for like 36 hours straight, essentially overseeing the unload and install of experiential event and then pack it all up and go to another city. So between my own kind of passion of performing, which I'd done for decades, and then learning the business side under Sam, learning the kind of on the job really training of the technical direction and production management for years at Marymount, and then doing the producer element really came from this experiential marketing company, because I'm doing all the logistics of 18-wheeler trucks and getting hotel permissions to be in their loading docks, and I mean all kinds of red tape and organization of lots of different people and moving parts. So that was where I really, by baptism by fire, learned the production element. Mm-hmm. And so take all of that history, and then that was when in 2000, I guess it was 16 to 2018. Yeah, 2016, I became the managing director at Five Star Theatricals, which is one of the largest regional theaters in the country. So, and all of those things that I had learned through the years, every single one of them was used at Five Star. So
wow, what a just a massive amount of learning that you've taken on, pedagogy that you've taken on, I might say.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Yeah. So now you're writing books, and we've got a second one coming out. And
I'm certainly not doing theater right now.
Right. None of us are.
If anyone is, let me know. But
yeah.
And what's crazy is the theater company that you mentioned, the Visionary Theatricals, which I did actually start a theater company, which I was trying to kind of get donors and funding and investors for, was specifically an immersive theater company, which, if you know anything about Sleep No More, if you know anything about Third Rail Productions in New York with Then She Fell and those kind of shows, I honestly, before all this pandemic started, I honestly still think, once we ever get over this, that immersive is the future of audience and theater interaction, because it really, instead of virtual reality headsets where you're in the world, quote unquote, but in immersive theater, you are interacting with the world physically, with the actual live human being in the room. So I really think eventually that will go back to being what the future is going to be. However, in this time period, immersive theater faces challenges even more drastic than typical theater, because I mean, at least in a typical theater, you can, I guess, wear some masks, do some social distancing. Once we get over all these hurdles of like, how do people do backstage with stagehands and everything else, and how do we encourage the audience to get back into the building and feel safe? Beyond all of those things, well, immersive theater has to clear all of those hurdles, but then also has to clear the hurdle of actual face-to-face, non-social distance contact. So, there's some challenges ahead for sure.
Chris was actually, he was there. We were exploring immersive theater in Savannah prior to the pandemic. So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
that is amazing.
I've seen Chris post some things on his Facebook actually, and I had heard tell. I don't know if anyone's watching, or if even you, Chris, you know of what this is that I speak, but there was some kind of immersive. I want to say it was like flu 1918 pandemic show in Savannah that was in like some historic mansion or something, or maybe it wasn't the flu, maybe it was like a Scarlet Fever or something.
Scarlet Fever there, and they've done that for a little while where it's I don't know how long, but they've had actors come in and portray the characters during Scarlet Fever and everything that went on, and I can't remember which house it is. It's one of or one of those.
I couldn't tell from what I heard about it if it was what I would consider actual immersive theater. Oh, Yellow Fever, Chris says. Okay. So I wasn't sure if it was like full on immersive theater, or if it was more like promenade style theater where you're moving through a house, but you're still basically an audience and someone is giving you a performance. Because that is promenade, but immersive for me is literally where the audience member affects the performance. You know what I mean? Where you are the protagonist. The audience member is now influencing what happens with the performers, which there's an element of that, I guess, with murder mystery dinner theater, to some degree, but what I'm talking about is, for anyone who's been to Sleep No More, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about being able to interact with props and take them from one character to another, and then you get a specific response depending on whether or not you give it to them. You know, so there's such a more immersive, but it's just a more vast experience.
Sure, because you actually there is that level of improvisation that goes on during the whole show.
Sure.
The people are affected by. I mean, the actors are affected by I guess you could call sub actors. Basically, the audience is an actor.
Yeah, the audience is absolutely an actor. Yeah, each individual, not just as a one unit, but each individual audience member. Yeah.
Wow. Chris says promenade for the yellow fever.
Got it. Okay.
And it was also at the Davenport House. So thank you, Chris. He's always a great fact checker. I appreciate
you've got a computer back there.
I do. He is, yes, he is my data or my lore. I'm not really sure which one. Hopefully not lore. Lore was just a bad guy.
It's true. Which by the way, back to the book. So lure is taken from the word light and pure when you combine them together, because he was I don't use the word angels, but angel of light and purity. So, but also we know what the word lure means is to lure people away. So I thought it was an interesting kind of combination when you combine them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what this is, but it sounds very interesting.
Security camera immersive theater. Wow. Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, I know in immersive theater you have to have lots of security cameras, if that's what you're getting at. Because,
yeah.
I mean, in every room you have to, because undoubtedly there's going to be an audience member who's handsy or wants to just think they're funny and do something to an actor or whatever. So it definitely poses risks. It poses, insurance issues for sure. But but maybe, I don't know if Chris is talking about there is kind of, a sense of theater that is, yes, but the audience can watch from home, but roam the entire book. Okay. Yeah. That's what he's talking about, which is a solution, I guess, is on the way to a solution where the audience has that kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Control.
Control is a word, but there's a more specific word that I'm looking for. Anyway, but yeah, where they have that kind of input. That's great. Yeah, who knows? And in fact, there are debates that I see on. This is how theater nerdy I can get on you. I mean, I don't know if you want to go for the people that aren't theater people on here, but I mean, like, there are debates and forums that I'm a part of on Facebook where, at that point, if audience are watching from home, is it even theater anymore? Or is it some virtual reality TV video Zoom experience? You know what I mean? So, which there are those who would say now it's no longer theater. Once you remove an audience from the actual breathing space, let's use that breathing space of the performers, it's no longer theater. Now it's some hybrid virtual reality TV internet experience, which, I mean, look, for sure, this period in our time, 100 years from now, if we're all still around, 100 years from now, the theater history books, this period until 2020, just these 4 months, or however many months it's been now, 5 months, just these 5 months in 2020 are going to be like a full chapter in a theater history book. I guarantee you, because the stuff that is the changes and not only just the negative changes, but to Chris's point, the innovations. I mean, innovations happen when there's a problem. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. 100%.
So we're going to see a lot of innovations because we have a definite problem.
Yes, and that's with adversity comes innovation. That's just the way it is. Yeah. So it will have to be where we do have to have some sort of hybrid mentality for a little while. Wait, that's not the right wording, but you get my point.
Sure.
We're going to have to do something to get through this, to survive this as a theater community. And these kind of things are probably the ways to do it. So I hope more people take hold of that. The audience is definitely the biggest part that people take away from the theater, I think, is just being in the audience and as an actor being able to mirror off the audience.
That's where the theater purists would say, if you don't have an audience in the room with you, it's not theater. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and there are those theater purists who would say, let's not even deal with any of the rest of the stuff because I want to get back to doing theater. So, you know what I mean? I see both sides of things, but
right. Yeah, I do too. And my heart goes out to everyone at this time for those reasons. But gosh, wow, this has been a great conversation about theater and performance and your books, and I can't wait to dig into that. I have put the Instagram tag, not tag, but at symbol for that, so people can go check it out. Also, I know on Amazon, just look up the Whisperian World, and you'll find you can get the paperback,
hardback, or Kindle version.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you want the special edition, which is this gold foil, this is on the website, thewhisperinworld.com. So,
okay, very cool. So I'll put a link to that in this conversation as well. Will, it has been enormously amazing getting to know you in these last.
You too, Chris. And Chris and Laura and whoever's still there. Oh my gosh, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, Chris, Laura, April. Who else?
April, yes, awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Jenna's still there. Okay, I mean, I'll see her soon, but
yeah. And Carissa, I'm not sure who Carissa is.
Carissa's actually Jenna's sister. So
there you go.
Thank you for stopping by, Carissa. This is great.
Yeah, and have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your quarantine and your creative surge that you're enjoying. And if we ever do get a chance to be on stage together, I hope so.
Who knows, man? Who knows? I don't put anything beyond the realm of possibility these days.
Exactly. All right.
Love to be back in Savannah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Well, Chris says, take care.
Chris. Yes, thank you.
Love you.
And, love you guys so much. Absolutely.
We'll see you all soon. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Bye. So great to talk to him. Thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., be here. Shrek the Musical at the Savannah Children's Theater. We're going to have a reunion show with some of the cast members, and that should be a lot of fun. It's a special time, 6 o'clock, and I will be possibly drinking a Shrek-themed cocktail. We'll see. What? Molly said what? Maybe I won't. Anyway, I'll see you sometime in the near future.